You're watching the Common Constitutionalist Video Podcast, Special Weekday Edition. So hi there, my name is Brent Smith and I am the Common Constitutionalist. Welcome again to a special weekday edition of the Common Constitutionalist Video Podcast. And today I'm going to be talking about, well, the erasure of American history. The erasing of our wonderful American history. And the intentions, why, how, and all that other happy crap. And I'm standing in front of General John Stark's. It's pretty sunny out here. I guess I'll have to move over here a little bit. By my house, General John Stark's memorial, his grave site. And he was a general in the Revolutionary War, American general in the Revolutionary War. How long is it going to be till his grave is defaced or his statue up there is pulled down or whatever? For what reason? Because he was white and he was part of the revolution. Okay. Does it matter whether he owned slaves? Nope, doesn't make any difference. He was white and he was part of the revolution. He's got to go, and that's the way it is. Pretty much anybody who has any historical significance in America today has got to go. They can't just be defaced, defamed, or otherwise. They have to be gone. They have to be erased completely from history, and I'll get into that in just a moment. I'll be right back. Alright, welcome back, and before I begin, I'd like you to like, subscribe, hit the alert, do all that good stuff, so I can continue to put out more content. If people like it, make a comment. If people hate it, make a comment. Those things are funny. Been through that. So anyway, like I said, this video podcast is called Erasing Our History. So it's one thing to say that we're losing our history, and in fact we are losing our history, but it's quite another thing that we're to say that we're having our history erased literally before our eyes. They've gone now from burning the American flag, which is bad enough, but that's within any American's right to burn the American flag, okay? Now they're starting to, recently some group of Antifa people or whatever, they burned a stack of Bibles. I mean, why in the heck would you burn Bibles? I was going to say something else. Although, did you notice? I haven't seen anywhere where anyone's burned a stack of Qurans. Why is that, I wonder? Gee, don't know. Food for thought, right? So anyway, now, like I said, they're not just trying to change our history, they're trying to erase it. Lincoln didn't free the slaves. He didn't really care about the slaves. All this was to save the Union. It had nothing to do with slaves. It had nothing to do with the abolition of slavery. It had nothing to do with anything but just preserving the Union at all costs. Okay? Ridiculous. Freed slaves apparently fought for the North just to keep the Union together. They didn't fight on behalf of the North, beside whites in the North, to free the South from slavery. Of course not. They didn't do that. Again, do you see how ridiculous this is? But it doesn't make any difference whether we think it's ridiculous. The fact is that it's happening right now. And it's serious. This is no joke. All the destruction of these statues and monuments and whatnot, they all have an underlying purpose or a master plan. This isn't just spontaneous combustion, so to speak. This isn't just a bunch of disparate groups that just happen to be working toward the same goal. That ain't it. Sorry. There is a master plan afoot here. Even a few years ago, this sounded like it's complete insanity. It sounded like tinfoil hat conspiracy insanity. And I admit it. There's no doubt about it. I admit it. That no one could have possibly guessed that this kind of stuff could be happening at the rapidity, at the speed that is happening right now. It's absolutely mind-blowing. Communists, Marxists, and whatnot, they know they can't compete with true American history. There's no way that they can compete side by side with the true American history of capitalism, free market capitalism versus communism. That's what it is, basically. So instead of trying to compete in the arena of ideas, they just must erase one of the arenas as if it didn't exist. Tear down one of the arenas, bulldoze it, put a parking lot on it, and then tell everybody that it never existed. That's basically what they're trying to do. I guess they were trying to replace it with some form of good communism. I guess. That's an oxymoron. We know that, but a lot of people evidently don't, or don't care, whatever. In my opinion, and it's not just my opinion, it's the opinion of people a lot more scholarly than I, that this is the most well-planned, most well-coordinated attack on America in our history. And the reason why it appears to be working so far is that we all know that no one, including the Chinese, they all know that the American can never be conquered, can never be taken over from without. Okay? There is no conquering force that can come in and conquer America. It has to be done broken down, brick by brick, piece by piece, statue by statue, from within. And that's what's happening right now. We're living history right now. When reasonable people think they want to make a change, okay, they seek change, so to speak, as the social justice warriors claim they want to do, they just want change. What happens? Well, reasonable people, they get together, they have dialogue, actual real dialogue. They talk things out, and then they see if they can find some minute, even whatever it is, some common ground. That's what people seek out, is common ground. And after speaking to one another as adults in a group or one-on-one, you kind of lay out what it is you would like to see happen to the other party. Okay, and then they will do the same back to you. How you envision moving forward and things like that, and then they'll tell you their vision of moving forward. And then maybe one of the parties has felt like they've been wronged by the other. Okay? And maybe they do. Maybe they aren't. I don't know. Whatever. But that's how you do this in this scenario. Maybe a simple apology would probably do to get the ball rolling, so to speak, to put things back on the right track. I'm sorry if you feel that way, whatever, okay? And that may lead to some forgiveness on the part of the other party. This is adults that we're talking about here, not children. And maybe that might lead to some compromise between the two parties, where Party A doesn't get everything they want, but they get something. Party B doesn't get everything they want, but they get something. And that's considered in anyone's book a win-win. In my book, it certainly is considered a win-win. Some form of compromise where both parties give a little and get a little. And that's okay. To start, that's a great start. Leftists today always say they want a dialogue. No, they don't. What they really want, or at least the ones that appear not to be completely insane. That we need a dialogue on race. That's not what they mean. It simply isn't. as borne out time after time after time, when you see how the dialogues devolve into shouting matches and name calling and things like that. Plain and simple, they simply don't. The idea of a dialogue for a lot of these, most of these radicals, all of these radicals maybe, is shouting a list of demands, and then they have an expectation that they all have to be met, or else. And you know what the or else is, because we've been witness to the or else. And we've also seen that they don't have an ounce of compassion and an ounce of forgiveness. It just doesn't happen, because that's not what they're trying to do. They're not trying to make change. They're trying to erase. They're not trying to make change. They're not trying to work with us to change whatever they feel has been wronged, or whatever it happens to be. They're incapable of compromise, as we see. And if they were ever to have an honest dialogue with us about the wrongs that happened long ago, they would have to then acknowledge America's true history. And they can't acknowledge America's true history because, like I said, they don't want to acknowledge the true history and change it and make changes to it to improve it going forward. They want to erase America's true history. And this is why you see the attempt, at least, to literally tear down anything that's historical. Like, for example, Stark's tomb. He was you know who he was at this point, right? I mean, these radicals defaced Gandhi. I don't know if they even knew who he was, but they defaced Gandhi. They defaced and tried to tear down Lincoln. Frederick Douglass? You tear down I think they beheaded him, and they tore down a statue of Frederick Douglass. A freed slave who became a good friend of Abraham Lincoln. If Abraham Lincoln didn't want to free the slaves and wasn't an abolitionist, you think Frederick Douglass would have befriended him? Because Frederick Douglass was not an Uncle Tom. He was not a sellout, okay? Read history and you'll find out. If you're interested in reading the real, true American history, if you're not, then you're a leftist, radical, communist, whatever, okay? To continue, like I said, they've gotten rid of statues of other abolitionists, people that freed the slaves, people that were slaves overseas to the Islamic Empire, the Ottoman Empire. They tore down statues of that guy. Like I said, Frederick Douglass, a black man, unbelievable. What was he? Some sort of sellout to the right? I don't think so. Do any of these leftists, now we all know about the Aunt Jemima kerfuffle, how she was taken off the Aunt Jemima bottle and the pancake mix and everything else. Do any of you leftists out there, do any of you radicals out there know or even care about the real story of Aunt Jemima? Because she was a real person. She wasn't just some pictorial portrayal by some whitey white guy of this is the way a black woman should look on a pancake mix. She was a real person, and she was the quintessential American feel-good, goodness of America, rags to riches story. Look it up, you'll be stunned and amazed. Hopefully not, but if you're a leftist, maybe you would be stunned and amazed if you cared to read it. But they don't care. Like I said, they don't care about any of this stuff. They just want to get rid of it all. And look how far they've come already. Look how far they've progressed already, if I could use that word. Oy vey. And that's, again, why they want to get rid of this. They want to erase our history, because there is goodness in American history. We weren't all bad. We're the worst country on the planet except for every other country on the planet. We're the worst country in the history of the planet except for every other country in the history of the planet. There's never been a better country, a more good country than America. And that's a fact, Jack. Look at the way they discount en masse the entire whole of the founders, every single one of them, okay? If they were white, if they were part of the revolution, they were a founder, they're discounted, and they need to be gone. They need to be gone, up to and including George Washington, the greatest president we've ever had, and maybe the greatest man we've ever had in America. Was he a human? Sure, he was human. He wasn't a god, he wasn't an angel, so he was flawed like every other person, including everybody else watching this, but he was better than you and better than me. That's just the way it is, okay? If it has to do with true American history, like I said, good or bad, it has to be just wiped away. That's it. That's the intent of these radicals, communists, Marxists, however you want to classify them. That's the intent. Erase, erase, erase. Get rid of it, and then you can install whatever you feel is adequate to whatever you want to accomplish. Okay. A lot of people on the right just shake their head when they see this kind of stuff, when they see the rioting, when they see this tearing down of statues, particularly when they see this tearing down of statues of people like, you know, defacing Lincoln or Gandhi or Frederick Douglass is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. But whatever. We just all shake our heads and we say, gee, what a bunch of ignorant pusses these people are. They don't have a clue on what they're doing. You can't think that way anymore, because maybe not all, but the ones that are sending them out there to do what they do, I don't know who they are yet. I suspect, but I don't know. They know exactly what's going on, and this is what has to happen. This is the only way that they can take over America, is erase our history and install whatever, okay? Now, what are they going to install in its place? I don't know. I have no idea. And the weird thing about this is that nobody really does either. We suspect it's going to be some form of communism or something like that, or I don't know what, anarchy. It can't be anarchy. It can't be anarchy for long, because there's no such thing as extended anarchy, because some one or group of ones will always rise to the top, and then it becomes communism. That's why there's no such thing as socialism, because there's no one for all and all for one. It's one for one. Somebody's always going to rise to the top. The cream, the evil cream, will always rise to the top, and they will control it, and then socialism magically becomes communism, because it kind of was all the time. It's just a stepping stone. As I've said many times in the past, it's a stepping stone between capitalism and communism, and there's nowhere to go, okay? But the reason why I say this is different from days gone by, even like the Black Panther movement and things like that back in the 60s, there were more people that were more informed, more constitutionalists back then than there are now. There's many more, by a stretch, millions more ignorant people than there were back then. Same as in Woodrow Wilson's era and things like that. The further we get from the Constitution, the further we get from our founding, the dumber we get regarding the founding. And so that's why at this juncture in history, they understand that this is a perfect moment to take over our country. I sound like a whack job, I know. And just a year or two ago, I would have said this is ridiculous. It's a fun conspiracy theory, but it could never happen in America. It can happen in America, and we're seeing it right now. And you all better freaking wake up. The silent majority had better freaking wake up, okay? But the reason why I say that this is different, because we now have a confluence of more than one radical group, okay? You've got the communist Marxists, okay? Then you've got the Black Lives Matter people, who the founders of Black Lives Matter say that they are trained Marxists. Yes, we understand that. But a lot of the Black Lives Matter people are the Black Panther type of things from the 60s, that they are just anti-colonialist racialists, so to speak, black separatist radicals. Okay, that's what a lot of these Black Lives Matter people are. They're just anti-colonialists, like Obama, black separatist radicals, or like who was his preacher? Can't remember what the guy's name was. At any rate, and then you can bet your bottom dollar that if they're not already in on the game, then the Islamist Muslim Brotherhood is going to have something to say about this, because since the 1980s they've been trying to take over America from within and install an Islamic state. So this is going to get really interesting unfortunately, if it gets to this point. And I sure as hell hope it never gets to this point. I hope enough people wake up and throw these people off and throw them out, because they need to get gone. I don't, for a lot of these radicals, I don't think there's any bringing them back from the abyss. I've said this before. I don't think there's any saving some of these people. They need to go, okay? They just need to go away. Go, if you can find a better country than America, please go. I'm sure that President Trump, maybe personally, would pay for your flight. Just go away. Leave us alone. Go the crap away. You can form your own communist, socialist utopia if you wish. No, not going to happen. So that's why it's so much different, because you've got at least 3 groups that I know of right now. Black Lives Matter. You got the Antifa, which is basically the communist, Marxist, whatever, anarchist type of deal. And then you've got the Islamist Muslim Brotherhood that I guarantee you, if they're not already involved, they're going to get in on this thing. Guarantee you. That's why this is so much scarier than it has been in the past, because it's usually just one disparate group trying to start some nonsense, and the other ones are either silent or just not involved at the time. And then it blows over and they wait for the next crisis. This one's different. It's a lot more serious, and y'all had better wake up. Y'all had better wake up. As far as the elections are concerned, this is a watershed election. Even if you don't like the president, our current president, Trump, you got to vote for this guy, because if the other guy gets in, he's going to be wholly controlled by the radicals, and then we are in for the fight of our lives. And this is one we may actually lose. And I've never said that before, but I'm saying it now. This is the Common Constitutionalist. Thank you for watching. Again, don't forget to subscribe, to share, to sign up for the alerts and whatnot. Leave me a comment if you feel compelled. That's all I got. See ya.